Welcome to part 1 of this series about hunter-gatherers, where I'll present 100% peer-reviewed evidence about their history, their diets, health, lifespan, and I'll make comparisons to modern humans. Hunter-gatherers are our closest genetic relatives that have not been affected by mass agriculture and lifestyles of modern society. They are often studied to understand how to undo some of the negative effects of modern society and to understand just how healthy humans could be if they lived a natural life. For example, some diets, like the paleo and carnivore diets, are based on what our ancestors supposedly ate, and they make some grand claims about the related health benefits. But who are hunter-gatherers in reality? And what has science actually discovered about their diets, health, lifespans, activity levels, and related aspects of life? In the first part of this series, I'll be covering a brief history of hunter-gatherer diets and breaking down the diets of more recent hunter-gatherer populations. So what or who is a hunter-gatherer? There are actually several definitions that mostly revolve around where a population's food and resources come from. A review article by Crittenden and Schnorr mentions that in earlier definitions, a hunter-gatherer society should get their food and resources from natural sources, and they should not alter any gene pools, meaning there should be no agricultural selection or genetic modification. However, in modern times, even relatively isolated tribes still have contact with agriculturalized societies. As a result, it is hard to find any recent tribes that would fit such a strict definition. In fact, only 0.001% of the world's population in 1968 would actually fit that strict definition. A quote from the review says, "Almost all foraging populations consume a mixed diet that includes varying degrees of farm foods, wild foods, and possibly nutritional subsidies from governments and aid organizations." Subsequently, some looser definitions of hunter-gatherer were actually created, allowing some non-zero fraction of diet to come from domesticated foods. Some of this hair-splitting about hunter-gatherer definitions is only required for studying living populations, but is not required for older populations that predate modern agriculture and civilization. If we only considered humans, or Homo sapiens, there is already evidence about dietary trends from fossils throughout Africa and Europe dating back 200 to 40,000 years ago. But we can even start further back at Homo sapien precursors like Homo habilis and Homo erectus, because they were also capable of hunting, meaning that they were among the first hominin hunter-gatherers. Hominins are actually a different term than hominids. Both go up to the great apes, but hominins actually relate more to what became humans, as a little bit of an FYI. All of these populations are considered paleo because they actually existed during the Paleolithic period, which is approximately between 2.5 million years ago and 10,000 years ago. Studying more ancestral populations provides insight into populations truly untouched by modern technology and also allows us to draw conclusions about genetic evolution. Here we see a phylogenetic or evolutionary tree that gives the approximate genetic relationships of pre-human and human species. In this tree, Australopithecus afarensis is the first human species dating back to around 4 million years ago. Homo habilis follows as the next differentiated species, and then several species later, we see Homo erectus, and finally, Homo sapiens, which is actually our species. Note that Homo sapiens actually overlap with Homo neanderthalensis, or Neanderthals. Although we don't have evidence about diets across all of these species, This tree at least provides some perspective of how much time has passed for cultural, genetic, and ecologic evolution since humans started hunting. Now that we have a sense of who is included under the hunter-gatherer label, let's move on to the real meat and potatoes, their diets. In my experience, this is the most commercially exploited aspect of hunter-gatherer life, which makes it one of the more interesting aspects to me. While commercial accounts of hunter-gatherer diets are very well defined and very simple, my research shows that they are in reality very diverse and difficult to generalize. While studies on this topic date back to the 1800s, there are very few standards for collecting data, and there was limited technology to analyze details like biomarkers and genetics. For example, the Ethnographic Atlas by George Peter Murdoch from 1967, that is cited over 1,000 times, includes data about hunter-gatherer diet composition, but has no standardized units like weight, volume, or energy across populations. Still, there have been enough newer studies and those that review older studies that we can at least start to paint a picture. One major theme across all of the resources I found on the topic is that there never was and still isn't a single diet of hunter-gatherers. Nearly all hunter-gatherer populations in the recent past ate a mix of meat and plant foods, but the detailed composition of their diets depends on geography and the local ecology. With that said, I will try to give a bit of history of hominin diets and then break down in detail what is known about diets of modern hunter-gatherer tribes. Starting our 2 million year timeline, human diets derive from the diets of higher primates and bipedal hominids, consisting mostly of plants with a small amount of insects and animal flesh to supplement. These plants often included roots, tubers, and large protected nuts and seeds. Around the 2 million year mark, Homo erectus and Homo habilis seem to have gained some serious hunting skills and increased their reliance on animal flesh. That being said, their diet still had a significant amount of plant food, potentially even the majority. Around 250,000 years ago, all human groups supposedly started cooking foods, and 200,000 years ago, they started eating marine animals, which became a more significant part of the human diet. Before 100,000 years ago, there is evidence in the teeth of Neanderthals and other Paleolithic human fossils of cooked and processed grains from a variety of wild grasses. Does that mean that people have been eating cereal for 100,000 years? Maybe. It definitely wasn't Captain Crunch or Cinnamon Toast Crunch, cereals that I didn't eat much but I loved, but they were cooked and processed grains. I find that fascinating. Approaching 15,000 years ago, there may have been a decrease in the reliance on fermentable carbohydrate based on tooth decay found in fossils. For several thousand years, a variety of food processing was common, including fermentation, germination, mechanical processing, thermal treatment, dehydration, and preservation. Across many of these ancient populations, in work by Eaton and Connor, it was estimated that plants constituted approximately 65% of their diets, with animal products making up the remaining 35%. As this history approached our current times, there might have been more landmark changes in human diet, but I'll leave that for you to dig into on your own, or ask about it in the comments. So, what do hunter-gatherers eat now? Based on the 229 populations studied in the Ethnographer's Atlas, tundra environments with limited foliage corresponded to diets where 85% of it was composed of hunted or fished animal meat. However, in grassland ecosystems, the meat component drops to 40 to 60% of the diet, and 50 to 80% in forest ecosystems. In fact, there is even a trend directly correlating the plant and animal consumption with the absolute latitude of the population. This breakdown highlights the ecologically dependent variation mentioned earlier. One estimate of the median diet in warm climates is 53% gathered plant foods, 26% hunted foods, and 21% fish foods. So far, it's becoming pretty clear that diet composition not only depends on the population studied and their environment, but it also depends on how they are being studied, given the variation across studies. Now, let's look at some of the specific tribes on the extremes of these dietary ranges. And please, forgive me, I have not a perfect pronunciation of any of these tribes' names, but I'm trying to pronounce them correctly. So the Kung, or Kung, was that good? I don't know, are reported to obtain 60 to 80% of their diet from plants at times. 60 to 80%. The Hadza, amazingly, were estimated to have 1 to 50% of their energy coming from honey, depending on the month. And that was just based on honey that was brought back to the camp. Adding to that, in studies that actually accompanied the Hadza on their foraging trips, it was found that a substantial amount of honey and bee larvae are eaten during the trip, bringing honey consumption to a 16 to 20% of the annual Hadza diet. Just from honey. Imagine that. We can also break down diet into macronutrient percentages. Looking at the following table of macronutrients for a few tribes, we can see that both the Hadza and Tsimane tribes get 65 to 72% of their energy from carbs, 11 to 14% from fat, and 14 to 24% of their energy from protein. You will also see a row in this table for USA, but that will actually be highlighted in another part of this video series. So far, I've presented a lot of raw data without drawing too many implications about modern diets or ideal diets, because I wanted you to see these numbers and compare them to your own expectations. Did you expect so much of hunter-gatherer diets to come from plants? Did you expect that humans have been cooking and processing food in so many different ways for so long? Did you expect honey and carbohydrates in general to make up so much of the consumed energy in some of these cases? Let me know if your expectations were dead on or way off. Or do you maybe know some of the sources that I missed that paint a completely different picture? I'm extremely open to finding them, I'm curious to hear about them, and I would love to include them into any future pictures that I paint. There are plenty more fun facts and subtopics that I came across in my research, including adaptive gut microbiomes, enzymatic evolution, and socially influenced dietary patterns. But I wanted to keep the scope manageable for my first video. In the next part of this video series, I'll dig into the health of hunter-gatherers, the occurrence of diseases, both modern and natural, and the correlations, or lack thereof, between the different aspects of health, lifespan, and diet. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is not only a brand new project for me, but this whole YouTube channel is completely new, including talking to a camera, period. So if you like this, if this was interesting, if you'd like to see more, you know what you have to do. Like, comment, share, smash, smush, touch, tap, telekinesis, that subscribe button, and leave any questions or extra interesting notes of information you have in the comments. And I will be sure to get back to you, but also potentially include some of that stuff in my following videos. Take care.